Most people think if they want to build an app, they need a 4-year computer science degree, $100,000 in tuition fees, and 10 years of debugging syntax errors. They think the software gold rush is over because the barrier to entry is just too high. But the truth is, coding has just changed forever. We've entered the era of vibe coding, where the main thing standing between you and a functional app is the ability to describe your vision in plain language. And to prove it, I sat my 10-year-old niece down in front of a laptop last night after my AI live stream. She has zero technical experience. She's never taken a coding class. She has no idea what vibe coding means. She's 10 years old. Most importantly, though, she had no fear because I framed it as a new fun thing to play with. And in 2 hours, she vibe coded for the first time ever in her life and now has 2 working apps, which I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you the exact vibe coding tool she used, the exact prompts she used, and exactly how to vibe code your first app in 10 minutes. But first, my name's Sabrina Ramanov. I previously built and sold an AI company for millions of dollars, and now I teach millions of people AI for free. So make sure you hit like, hit subscribe, and hit the notification button. But first, what is vibe coding and why should you care about it? This is the way I like to think about it. Vibe coding shifts your focus and energy from the mechanics of coding to the meaning behind your product. So instead of being a writer where you're obsessing over every single word, every single punctuation mark, comma, and colon, you are now the director, obsessing over the higher level story, every frame, emotion, and moment in your story. In product speak, that would be the user experience. So the key point here, from mechanics to meaning. So instead of manually typing every single line of code like you would 10 years ago, you can describe your vision, your intent in plain English, and then AI translates your intent into code in just a few minutes. You're not doing less work, it's higher level work. It's another abstraction layer that's been introduced into the world of programming, which helps to effectively lower the barrier to entry. Even if you have no technical background whatsoever, you can now build simple, functional websites, web apps, landing pages, and mobile apps. I talk about the different stages of vibe coding over here in this previous newsletter. You've been vibe coding the hard way, do this. I walk through stage 1 tools, stage 2 tools, stage 3 tools, stage 4 tools, and which set of tools you should choose based on what you're trying to do and your level of technical experience. So go ahead and check out this newsletter if you're interested in that. The most important thing I want to convey is if you are not technical, vibe coding empowers you to build simple websites, apps, and products. But it still takes a lot of work, debugging, and technical know-how to build more complex products. And you can certainly learn this too with AI as your tutor at every step of the process, but just be realistic in timelines, right? If you have a more complex product you're trying to build out, expect months, not days. So my number one piece of advice for non-technical coders is to simplify what you're trying to build to just one sentence. So what is the one thing your app does that is actually useful to your users? I see this mistake commonly where somebody's trying to vibe code an app for the first time and it's a CRM with 20 different features. Like, you should not attempt that as your first or even second or even third vibe coded app, especially if you don't have a technical background. Make sure your first version with one feature works first, right? Test it aggressively. Then once you're happy with it working, you can add one more feature and then make sure you test that aggressively before you add anything else. Vibe coding is powerful in 2026, but it's still often wrong and brittle. So you need to build incrementally and slowly. Think training wheels. And of course, the more technical you are, the less training wheels you need because you are confident enough to steer AI in the right direction. But if you're non-technical, think about it in terms of training wheels. Build slowly, build incrementally, one tiny thing at a time, one Lego block at a time. And here are the apps my 10-year-old niece built. So the first one is a daily diary where the password is chocolate. If you want to test it out. So you unlock the diary and then you can do things like write your entry for this day. So let's click edit page. It'll ask you how you're feeling today. So you can choose a relevant emoji to describe your feeling. Feeling coffee time, and it dynamically updates the background to a relevant image. Actually, I don't know what'll happen if I choose chocolate bar. Okay, so that happened. Let's go to emotions. Let's say I'm feeling excited. Okay, so it's really cool because it changes the background and it also changes the music. This is actually playing music related to the mood you selected. And so for each day, you select your mood, it changes the background, it changes the music, and you can write your thoughts here. So here I'll say, super excited to share my niece's vibe coded apps. You can click done editing. And the cool thing is you can also add photos to different days, right? So if let's say I want to edit this page and add some photos, I just added a picture of my dog Hugs. And here's the second app she built. It's a Japanese language learning app. She's kind of obsessed with Japan and anime at the moment. She whipped up this really cool website where you can personalize your Japanese learning journey with 3 alphabets, a vocabulary builder, pronunciation guide, and AI voice chat. So the first step here is just like learning the alphabet. So master these 46 characters. You can click on one of these and you'll hear the sound. So it actually played the sound and you can play it again to practice. Okay. You can switch with the different alphabets. If you click vocabulary, then you have all these different words, essential words and phrases to start with. And then obviously you can add more complex things. You can play this button here to hear the pronunciation of each word. If you click sentences, practice reading and listening to complete Japanese sentences, beginner, intermediate, and advanced. So these are some easier ones, intermediate ones, and then obviously you can add more. So this is a really fun one just to test your comprehension so far. And then this is the voice chat where you can pretty much say anything you want, either through speaking or through typing it. She did change it recently to be this particular character from an anime show or something. So that's why it's saying welcome, my dear princess. But yeah, so this is really fun. You can go back and forth. She's going back and forth with this voice chat and practicing her Japanese. So yeah, these 2 apps, the diary app and the chocolate app, she built them in under 2 hours. Honestly, the longest part was just waiting for the AI agents to do things. So here for Saturday, you can see my previous entries. Super excited to share my niece's vibe coded apps with the photo that I uploaded. And what's cool is, a lot of people write in a physical diary, right? And they keep track of it day by day. But over time, it's hard to actually go back to any particular day. So here you can jump to a specific date. So you can go to that date in your diary and you can see like exactly how you were feeling that day, memories and photos you attached for that day, etc. It even has this attempted flipping animation, right? Like kind of like flipping a diary. So it's pretty cool. And then she wanted it this particular color theme of pink, pastel, and sage green. So now I'm going to show you how to do this for yourself, how to vibe code this for yourself. And if it's your first time, I'm going to recommend this tool called emergent.sh. So go ahead and go to emergent.sh. It'll ask you to sign up. Once you're in, it will look like this, where you can type your prompt here. There's a bunch of other options here. Let's not do anything with these. And to grab the exact prompts she used, by the way, this YouTube video has an accompanying newsletter. So for the online diary, this is the exact prompt. So you can copy paste it directly from here, or you can take a screenshot from this YouTube video, right? So copy paste it here, okay? Make any changes you want to make to like customize this, and then go ahead and click this arrow button to start the process. And what will typically happen is Emergent will take some time setting up your environment. It's going to analyze your intent, what you're trying to build, and then it's going to come back with a bunch of clarifying questions, usually not all the time. Now we already got our questions here. Agent is asking a question. Please answer to further continue. So this is really helpful because the AI is just trying to ask you clarifying questions, see exactly what you want built. So question number 1, do you need user login to keep diaries private? Let's do no authentication for now, right? Photo storage, file upload, simple URL/link. Let's just store it locally for now. Design preference, let's do vintage. And then additional features, let's do mood emotion text. And obviously you can customize this to whatever you want. If you're not sure about how to answer a question like authentication or storage, just say not sure. I'm trying to keep it simple, okay? Because that hints at the AI that, hey, you're just trying to go with the most basic, simple version for now. Okay, so once you've answered that set of clarifying questions, now it's going to really start coding your product. And now this is going to take like 5, sometimes 10 minutes, okay? So if you go to my newsletter again, you'll see all of the prompts she used, the clarifying questions that she answered here. So these blocks in pink are the prompts she used. So this was her initial prompt, build an online diary. This was the follow-up prompt after she got the initial version working. And so this is really important. It goes back to what I was saying about building incrementally. So don't go to ChatGPT and ask for like a really long specs document or product requirements document, also known as a PRD, and then plug it in and expect it to work out of the box with 20 different features. Especially if you're non-technical, that will often lead to bugs where you have no idea what's possibly going on because you have multiple bugs that are causing all kinds of issues. So this approach is to massively simplify what it is you're trying to build into 1 to 2 sentences. Once you've gotten its initial version working, then just add one more feature, right? One feature at a time, test that it works. That's the approach. So this was the second prompt she ran, meaning the additional features she wanted to add. Based on the selected emoji mood for the day, change that day's page background to a relevant background image. Now, I added this last part because I know Unsplash is a free image library, so I didn't want Emergent to have any issues with it. But so I just said download a bunch of free images from Splash. Then AI went and implemented her feature request, but she wasn't happy with that version yet. She wanted way more emojis and backgrounds. So her next prompt, after everything else was working, okay, that's the key point here. Like, don't keep adding stuff if it's not working as expected. Make sure you test everything, make sure it works, and then you can incrementally add a new feature. So she wanted even more emojis, and she wanted a password, so it's kind of like unlocking your diary, and she wanted even more backgrounds, right? And then she was happy finally with this version, but instead of just the dynamic page image, she also wanted music to dynamically change based on your mood. So if I choose like feeling a coffee mood, you saw that coffee background for the diary page, but this will also play like coffee shop music, instrumental music to like match the mood for that page. And so this was really interesting because she ran into a bug here. Like music wasn't playing. You could see there was a music kind of selector, like you could press play and stuff, but it wasn't actually playing out loud. So instead of moving on to another feature, right, she stopped here and asked AI to fix this issue first. And she was really polite about it. Like, we're currently unable to hear the music. Please fix this minor error. So we were able to hear. Emergent AI did fix it actually after just this prompt. And the only remaining problem is she didn't like the music options. So then I showed her Suno AI to make her own music. And that's a whole other rabbit hole I'll get into in another music video. Okay, so what you're going to do, like I said, is open Emergent and then copy paste that initial prompt in. And you can see here, I'm going back to Emergent and it's still thinking, right? After this is done, if it's working the way you want, then you can copy paste her second prompt in. Okay, and that's the exercise I want you to do, especially if this is your first time ever vibe coding, right? Just start with a prompt like this. Okay, once you're happy with it, copy paste this second prompt. Once you're happy with the output of that, then copy paste this third prompt in, and you're gonna iteratively build this app in real time just by copy pasting the exact prompts she used. So all you have to do is copy paste from my newsletter over here into Emergence. But right now it's still thinking, it's still doing the initial version of our journaling app. Okay, so her second app was the Japanese language learning app, which you can try out here. I'll put the links actually to both of her apps in the YouTube video description as well. So it looks super cool and everything. And she actually built almost all of it with only one prompt. And here's the exact prompt she used. Make a language learning app, Japanese for now, add vocabulary words, 3 alphabets, sentences, pronunciation, and voice chats. This is directly copy pasted from her Emergent chat. So what you want to do to start another project, okay? So you're in this editor, okay? It's still working on our diary app. Click this plus button over here, and this will actually start a new project that you can run in parallel. So paste the Japanese language learning prompt over here. Go ahead and click enter, okay? And just like before, Emergent AI is going to analyze your intent. It's most likely going to ask you a bunch of clarifying questions, which you should answer to the best of your ability. Again, you can say you're not sure, or I don't know. If you're not sure yet, or you don't know, it's totally okay to say that. And now we have 2 apps that it's in parallel. Here's the flip diary, okay? It's still working though. So even though you can see the preview, the agent is still still running, green here. So if you try to test it a lot now, you might see some things that are broken because the agent's actually still working on it. And what's really cool here on the left-hand side is you can see exactly what it's doing. And it's even analyzing screenshots to verify that the user interface and user experience is working properly. And when it has bugs like this, it's going to catch this bug as well and also try to fix it. So don't freak out if you see this. The AI agent is just in the process of doing its thing. Okay, so let's go back to the language learning app. So AI agent asked us a bunch of clarifying questions. So the voice chat feature, what would you prefer? I don't really have a strong, just yes, use emergence LLM key. Let's just say I don't know which model to use, whatever is easier. Okay, number 2, learning structure. How would you like the content organized, structured lessons, free exploration, or both? Let's do C. Pronunciation feature, text to speech only, speech. Let's just do text to speech here, how words sound. That's important. And then authentication, eventually we'll add it. I'll just say not right now. So in general, for things like authentication, billing, and payment, I don't recommend implementing that in your very first version, right? Just try to get the core app experience working first. Any specific design requirements? Let's say anime. Okay, and then that's it for the question. So go ahead and click enter to submit your answers. Okay, and we can see our AI agent for the diary is done. You'll hear a sound. A couple things I'll point out here. If you want to share your app preview, you can click the share button over here. If you want to open it in a new tab, that's what I like to do. So we're going to go ahead and click that. So here's our diary. It's like a book, so we can click to open it. So this is pretty cool. I like where it's stylistically going, right? So this is the day. Today I feel excited, and here's a sample journal entry. Let's see if I can add a photo. This photo. Okay, yeah, so cool. We added some Samoyed photos. And then let's go to the next day. So Sunday, January 4th. I'm going to select calm. Okay, so that saved my mood for the day and also changed this to calm. Let me upload another photo. I think I have a headshot. So that uploaded the headshot. But the only issue is I can't actually edit the diary entry itself. Other than that, though, everything else looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is go back to emergence, and I forgot to hit record on my previous talk, but so I already put this prompt in. Everything looks great, but there's one bug. I cannot write or edit the diary entry. So emergence is currently trying to fix that. So you can see its progress here, and it says it's now working as expected. So I'm going to hit a refresh over here, and I'm just going to play with it in the app preview. So here you can see emergent AI is explaining its reasoning, fixing this issue. But when I actually try to test it out, I still can't edit for the particular day. So instead, what I'm asking it to do now is I still can't edit the diary entry. Can you just add an edit pencil icon to each day that I can click on to enable editing mode? So it's going to try to do that, and then I'll click refresh here. So if you see an error message like that, just click refresh. It's probably just editing the code base and stuff, and it's still running. So I'm going to let that run, and hopefully that will fix the last issue. Meanwhile, for our language learning apps, it's still doing a bunch of stuff. So it's testing right now the chat API from 98% success rate. And here's a summary. So it's just finished right now. So summary of the app, 3 alphabets, vocab, sentences, AI voice chat, and design. Here's the tech stack, and then suggested next action items. I'm going to click refresh. This app looks pretty good already, right? It's certainly a really great starting point if you've never vibe coded before and this is your first time. So really try everything out, right? Look for bugs that you might want to fix. Add one feature incrementally at a time. Because now once you have an existing app, it's important that every time you add a new feature, you don't break 3 other features and not even realize it. Right? That actually happens quite commonly in vibe coding. Prevent that. Just try to incrementally add one small feature at a time. And if you're excited about them, go ahead and click share to share it with other people. So this will give you a public URL that you can share with folks, friends, and family, and just show them what you've done. Okay, and the last step is just checking back in with our diary app. It looks like our agent is just in the testing process, so we can go ahead and test this too. Let me open it in a new tab. The diary got a lot larger for some reason, but it's much better than the tiny one before. Okay, today was a wonderful day. Oh, I think I typed this. I built a beautiful vintage app with flip animation and mood tags. Don't know what this T is. Sabrina. I think it fixed it by removing like that animation that was happening every time I clicked on a page. That was probably conflicting with the text area. But yeah, everything else looks good now. Let's just make sure it's saved. So like, let's go to the next page. And then yeah, here's a new edit. So that was saved. If I click this, if I add an image like my headshot, okay, let's go forward and then back, make sure everything was saved. Okay, yeah, so this is pretty good. So this is our V1 of a daily diary kind of app with a totally different theme, right? It's like a vintage style theme. So if you've been following along, like I said, just copy paste the prompts directly from my newsletter, right? It's these pink blocks, and then take it wherever you want to go. Like if you want to change the theme, if you want to add new features, if you want to fix something, just take it one incremental prompt at a time. So instead of writing like paragraphs and paragraphs of all the features you want to add simultaneously, just take it one tiny at a time, test aggressively to make sure it works, and then move on to the next thing. That is the number one way I advise folks, especially if you're non-technical, so that you don't run into a lot of frustration with lots of bugs that are interrelated that you can't figure out because it's too complicated. Simplify your app and your vision as much as possible, and then build it in a very small iterative way, just one incremental feature at a time. To wrap up this video, I just want to say the old way of learning coding and programming is very outdated, which is how I learned in college, was starting with theory, reading books, learning about data structures, doing algorithm type homework problems, that kind of stuff. Honestly, it was very boring. The new way of learning this stuff is experiencing the joy of building first. I can't tell you how many family and friends and other people I know who started vibe coding and realized they've come to love the process of building, of taking an idea and then actually seeing it live and being able to play with it, being able to share it with friends, family, and users. Experience the joy of that first, starting with vibe coding, building and launching simple, functional websites and apps. And then you're going to progressively learn foundational technical knowledge in the process, because you're going to naturally run into things you want to do but don't know how to do yet. So for example, if you take the two small apps we've built, like the next natural step might be, how do I let users log in, right? So you're going to learn about authentication and security. The next step might be, well, how do I store each user's data so it's private only to them, it's seen only by that particular user? You're going to learn about the database and data modeling. How do you call other apps? So Emergent is kind of calling OpenAI behind the scenes for us, but let's say you want to integrate an external service that Emergent doesn't have a pre-built integration with. You're going to learn about APIs and integrations. And finally, how do you share your app? So we shared our app on like this kind of ugly domain, right? Like it's not super great. You're going to learn about buying your own domain, hosting and deployment, and setting that up with an Emergent. And so the new way is in experiencing the joy of building first through the power of vibe coding, and then learning foundational technical knowledge in the process. And the thing is, like, learning all of this stuff and more is going to make you a much better vibe coder and product builder. So it's worth doing these things anyway. I just don't recommend starting with doing these things because, you know, when I started learning with theory, it was always like, why am I learning this stuff? Like, I don't know how it relates to anything in the real world. And like, that was not the optimal way for me personally to learn. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and video. Obviously, you can do the same thing in other vibe coding tools. It doesn't have to be Emergent. Some other ones similar to Emergent are Lovable.dev, Bolt.new, and Replit. So if you already have an account with one of those, you can try using those instead. And if you want more videos like that, hit like, hit subscribe, and drop a comment below. If you get stuck in the process or have any additional questions, just drop a comment in this YouTube video. I do try to reply to them as best I can. So thanks for watching.